Hey everyone, I am Ned Cramer and I'm here with Thomas Cheng, and we are both members of RAPID7 as a part of the rotational program. And we'll be talking to you a little bit about how video games are made. First off, we are software engineers at RAPID7's rotational program, and you can see on the slide that we have a fun little nickname for ourselves as the Rotatos. And yeah, that's just sort of what they call us at the company. RAPID7 is a cybersecurity company, and so we create and sell cybersecurity products. And while that's not exactly tied in with video games, we still want to talk about how video games are made because it's a really good process to learn about.
So when we think about video games today, there are really so many different types of games. When we even just 50 years ago, there were only a few video games out there. They weren't very accessible. You would have to go to an arcade and put in your quarters to play them. But nowadays, there's just so many new video games, and this is so saturated. You have like free-to-play games like Fortnite. You have like these long-standing games like Minecraft. And of course, you also have your mobile games now on your phones and your tablets, like Angry Birds. And with just so many different video games and so many different platforms, you might think that they have a very different process of making them, but when you boil down these large games, they're often created in pretty similar ways. We kind of call this process video game development, and they can take anywhere from one to like say even 8 years, and many of these video games kind of share the same methods that allow us to bring like a concept and ideas to a reality that you can actually play on your machines. When we talk about video game development, we kind of think of it in 3 stages: pre-production, production, and post-production.
And we'll start with pre-production just because that's what's first. Pre-production is generally when the game is still an idea. So the game creators are trying to figure out their vision for the game. And you may be thinking that creating vision for something like Fortnite is very easy, but there are a lot of different questions that the creators have to think about when they're creating a game. Some questions that they have to think about are, what's the game about? Who is the audience? Are there other games like this game that we're thinking about? How long might this game take to develop? How might it make money, and how much money do we have to create the game? And that's really just sort of scratching the surface. Though there are a bunch of tools that game developers use to help them sort of stay on track and create this vision for the game. The first part of these tools is called the game design document. And this helps creators organize their vision of the game. The document helps to answer a lot of the questions the creators have to think about, and having it shared allows people to come on it and really experience the vision together so they all can create the game. Some design aspects of the game that they might include here: the story, characters, gameplay, game mechanics, and how the game might make money. This document is extremely important. Without a really cohesive vision, the other stages of game development might fall apart. So there have been times when the game design document, or really just the vision, is not fully fleshed out, and a game fails. So this is a really crucial part to the entire process. Another part of the pre-production process is something called concept art. And while the game design document talks about sort of concrete things, concept art really establishes the feel of the game. It conveys if a game is supposed to be dark and spooky or light and happy. It gives a visual for everyone to go off of, and for later stages of development, people like artists really hone in and expand on the concept art. Lastly, in the pre-production stage is the idea of prototyping. And because, as Thomas mentioned a little bit earlier, game development is long, expensive, and generally pretty hard to do and takes a lot, you want to be able to explore your ideas very quickly. So a lot of game studios will create these prototypes either with hand or by code, or really something to do very quick, so that it can mock out what the game might look like. There's a saying in software engineering that you want to fail fast, and this is what prototyping is doing. One thing to note about prototyping is that a lot of projects don't make it past the prototyping stage. The creators may realize that the game mechanics aren't fully fleshed out, or it might be a little bit too expensive to make, or other challenges may arise. Sometimes projects are completely halted, or projects pivot at this stage. So it's really a crucial part of the game development lifecycle.
The next stage of game development is a stage that we call production. This is kind of the meat and bones of video game development. This is kind of where the game is being actually created in the virtual space. A big bulk of the artistry, the programming, and just overall game design and game building are being done in this space. It's usually the longest of the three stages that we're going to talk about. Production usually takes anywhere from like 1 to 4 years, but games have gone even longer than that. As such, since you're spending so much time and so much money on this phase, you kind of need to build out a great team around the project to make sure that all these different roles are kind of being done to perfection, and kind of filling out that vision that you kind of created in the pre-production stage. In this part of the presentation, we're kind of going to go over some of the roles that kind of make up a great team that is part of the development cycle. So the first role that we're going to talk about is project managers. As part of the vision, game creators usually have a target date for when they want the game to launch or be released. Game creation is usually mapped out, so certain milestones and certain features are being hit and created during a target date. And project managers are kind of the people managers that make sure that the game is going smoothly and is being developed to hit these deadlines and these milestones. They also ensure that all the features of the game are being developed smoothly, and if there are modifications, that they can kind of modify to kind of meet the realistic expectations of both developers and executives. They also organize just the general creation of the game. Another important aspect of their jobs is being able to communicate with developers as well as executives. So they kind of have to have some technical knowledge to kind of communicate with the developers, as well as the communication skills to kind of talk to people of leadership and make sure that they can communicate that certain things are being done or certain things aren't being done, and how to communicate that smoothly. The next role we're going to talk about are designers. They're kind of the creative backbone of video game design. They use their knowledge of games and what makes a game great to kind of perfect the feel of a game. When a designer is kind of working, they might focus on different things. So some designers might focus on creative writing, which kind of focus more on like the campaign or the story of a game. And there's also other designers that might focus more on just the characters, so it's just how characters development might play out, or how two different characters might interact. Also, designers could also work on just like the pacing of the game, or other just levels of the game, as well as like the UI, and so many different aspects of the game.
Another role that a person in the production stage might take on is a developer, and a developer turns the design of the game into code. These programmers usually have an expertise in math and something like computer science, but they can really work on many different things within the game. Developers might work on the game engine, which is the backbone of what makes the game run smoothly. They might work on sort of the physics of the game, the artificial intelligence of the characters in the game, the controls, maybe the UI, or even really the testing of the game. If you're interested in learning more about games, or interested in learning the code, game development and especially game development as a developer, is a great place to jump off from, since you can see the output of your code in a working game. Then lastly, there are plenty of other less technical opportunities for those who really want to contribute to games and get involved in the gaming space. So the first one being artists, and artists kind of create the details of the games that we love. They bring the games and the characters we love and know to life. They might create the models or sort of what a character looks like, or maybe the background. There are voice actors who modify their voice to voice certain characters in the game. Voice actors may not exclusively do video games. They might be working on television as well. But this is something that they can really use their expertise in to enhance a video game. Then lastly, there are musicians that are hired by video game studios that create soundtracks for the sort of ambiance of the game and the feel of the game. They might also create certain sounds that really contribute to the overall sort of vision and sort of feel of the game.
And the third and final stage of video game development that we're going to talk about is the post-production phase. So once a game is kind of shipped or launched, video game development doesn't really just stop there. In today's world, games are often continuously updated, whether that's major updates or just minor fixes or patches. So what really happens after a game is released? For most games, the team tends to get kind of slimmed down. A lot of the people that were working on a project kind of move on to other projects. This is for most games, but for some games that are like continuously ongoing, games like Fortnite or games like Minecraft, there's often developer teams that are working around the clock to kind of make these content updates that I'm sure many of you have experienced. Usually just putting in a large amount of content into one update and kind of releasing it. Games also have downloadable content that might get released. This might range from just some minor skins or cosmetics to just full range expansions that are almost like a mini game in their own right. And almost all gaming development teams kind of debrief at the end of a cycle. They kind of talk about what worked during the production phases and what didn't work. And this is often used to help out on future projects, whether that's a sequel to the game or other not relevant projects, but they can kind of, development studios kind of get a better idea of what they can continue doing in the future and what they should kind of avoid doing.
And yeah, that's kind of all three stages of the game development lifecycle. So we kind of just want to wrap up with some conclusions. First off, a lot of video games, especially the big video games, are made with these processes in mind, these roles in mind. It's a large effort to make a video game, something as big as Fortnite or Minecraft. So having sort of structure around it is really important. Another point we want to mention is that it can take a long time to create a video game. And this is why all these roles and all of these methods are so important to the process. And then our last point is that not just programmers work on video games. There are a lot of different opportunities if you want to get into the gaming space. I know we talked about a few like artists or people managers, but really there are a lot of different specialties that work on video games. If you have a creative or if you have a creative mind, then I'm sure that you will likely be able to find something that a video game studio would value. Lastly, what we want to mention before we close is that if you're interested in creating video games, the best way to get started is just to jump in. If you have a knack for creating art or coding, this is a great opportunity to really hone those skills and create something of your own.